So what we're doing right now is we're trying, so thank you very much for this. We had Venus a moment ago on the screen. We do seem to have voice. Venus, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. We can, oh, look at you. We can actually see you now.
Okay, great.
Super. So our next speaker up is Venus Rekow, and she's coming to us remotely from Washington, I believe. Is that right? Whoops, where did you go?
Yes.
Oh, that's your slide. Okay, cool, perfect. And Venus, I'm going to just hand it over to you. You're up on your slide. If you can put the presentation mode on, perhaps. Other than that, I think we've got your computer that we're seeing now.
Okay, I did put it on presentation mode.
Okay. Well, just run.
Let me go back.
It's all right. You just go. Whatever you're doing, it'll probably work.
So is it showing?
Yes, we see you. We see inclusive innovation practices, and we're all excited.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the invitation, Sandra. Thank you to Ronnie from Microsoft for recommending me. So my name is Venus, and I'm actually Colombian, but I live in Seattle, Washington. And today I want to talk about inclusive innovation from the perspective of relationship. Innovation, based on Howard Schultz's idea, is about rethinking the nature of relationships. It's not just rethinking products. He did not invent the coffee, but what he invented was more of a new way for us to connect with other individuals through community in the Starbucks. So within innovation and relationships, there are power dynamics that occur. And when we drive innovation from the point of view of doing things for people instead of with people, we're actually holding power over those that we're innovating with. And so one of the things that I want for you to think about is how those power dynamics are embedded within the organizations that you're currently leading or you're being part of. There are two power models that I want to talk about. The old power model, which most of you are familiar with, which is the model where innovation happens within closed doors and the products get rolled out for everyone else in order to get success. But a lot of times the individuals affected by these innovative processes are not being part or influencing the outcome of this innovation. On the other hand, the new power model of organizations, in this model, actually individuals, underrepresented individuals from different identities get to influence the organizational outcomes in terms of innovation. Innovation in this case happens everywhere, happens within the organization and outside of the organization. And to that, let me give you a quick example so you can really understand what does that mean. In 2010, NASA was told that they were not innovative. Imagine that. And also they were told that their budget was being cut. And so one of the things that the unit director did is that he decided to take a quite radical approach and enlist the wisdom of the crowd, of the community to solve the research and development problems that they had. They created a website and asked people to help them solve 14 problems. Out of that, 3,000 people responded to their call. And some of them were experts, some of those were enthusiasts. And what happened was the normal R&D cycle that is between 3 and 6 years, which is quite costly, was reduced in some cases to 3 and 6 months. And out of these, there was one particular one particular problem that was solved by a telecommunications engineer who created basically a new algorithm for one of the problems that they face. The problem that they face are solar storms, which are very difficult to deal with when you are in space. And so NASA's model was predicting the storm within an hour of happening. And their prediction rate was about 50%, which is not very good at all. And so this telecommunication engineer actually created a new model that predicted the solar storm within 80 hours prior to the event and a 75% of rate of accuracy. When I think about these,
Venus?
makes me really think about what happened within NASA, because there was this old power model with some of the scientists felt very threatened by the new person who does not have a degree on rocket science to solve this problem. There was a lot of tension. And I am sure there was a lot of talk of we can't lower the bar in terms of hiring because this won't let us to the outcomes that we want. When I think about inclusive innovation, I think about people from underrepresented groups influencing the outcomes that we have. And one of the things that I deal with a lot is organizations and individuals within organizations saying that to hire minorities normally means that they are lowering the bar. And so imagine that NASA had stuck to the old power model and had only hired rocket scientists with PhDs. They would have missed the opportunity of tapping into this talent of this engineer who was a telecommunications engineer solving their problem, which it caused almost nothing to them because he was doing it out of his home. So I want to bring you these because I know that that is one of the barriers that we continue to hear when we talk about hiring women or people of color into organizations. And in order for you to really have inclusive innovation, you need to assess your organization. Think about how inclusive is your organization from the perspective of your partners. What would they say about you? What about your employees, your customers, the community, the board of your organization? When I do a 360-degree assessment of these of the organization, I normally hit patterns in terms of what organizations can do to be more inclusive. And so with that, let me focus on one of the things that organizations can do to be
Venus,
more inclusive.
do you hear
Yes.
me? Can you
Yes.
can you forward us on the slides? We're kind of stuck a little bit earlier on. Can you catch us up?
Should I stop sharing and reshare them?
Yeah, try again, please.
Okay. Okay, let me see if it's that. Let me know if you can see them.
Yes, we're happy
Yes?
now. Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Technology. And so for those who didn't get to see the model, this was the power model that I was talking about, the old power model we are very familiar with, expertise, secrecy, competition. The new power model where there is more transparency. There is not just one leader leading all of that, and the knowledge is shared across the organization and outside the organization with the communities that are impacted. And here is the 360-degree feedback that I was speaking of in terms of something that you might really want to do for your organization if you're trying to drive inclusive innovation. And now I was going to show you this slide where I talk about inclusive hiring practices, because in order for you to have innovation, you need to have representation in the room, inside and outside in the ecosystem. And also you have to engage the community. So some of the organizations that I work with have launched STEM programs for kids to ensure that the pipeline is robust in terms of representation. Others, for instance, have invited people from the community to come into their organizations. This is one of the local governmental units here in Seattle that runs a breakfast for Black ministers. And basically they come to listen, also to share what's going on with the community. And this is a way of managing information back and forth in order to hear what's going on with that community and influencing in some way what's happening, reaching them in another way of really allowing the community to be heard. The one another organization that I work with actually has a prison training program. They are focused on economic development, and specifically they train entrepreneurs to be successful. And so they launch a prison training program for people who are incarcerated to be able to have access and learn how to run a business by the time they leave. As you may know, when people leave prison, they have a lot of barriers. They carry their history with them, which preclude them from job opportunities. So being able to launch their own business is really important. The other thing that organizations are doing is that they're rethinking about even their hiring criteria. So before, you may focus only on technical ability, whether or not the individual has the technical knowledge or education to conduct the job. But now they're thinking, okay, there are other things that we can assess that are really important for us to be successful. And one of them is adaptability. Can this individual adapt to the changing environment? What about collaboration? Can they drive collaboration within the organization? What about their judgment? Are they able to make critical decisions with accuracy within the organization? So these are some of the ways that they're trying to remove barriers, because some of the underrepresented communities may have had no opportunity to really learn, to have education, maybe formal education, I guess, to be able to join the workforce. In other cases, they're also removing background checks from the hiring practices in order to allow more people to participate in their systems. And more specifically, in the interviewing process, I want to share a very quick example of something that a clinic here that works with the Native community has done. In order to hire people in the clinic, they actually invite two elders from the Native community and two teenagers to be part of the interviewing process and influence the outcome, the who gets hired, because they are hiring not just for technical expertise, but also cultural competency. The other things that organizations are doing in the interviewing process is, for instance, Microsoft has run the autism program. And in the autism program, one of the things that they do is they create a video series where they allow the individual to understand the entire process, what's going to happen, who is going to interview them, how long are the interviews. And when they come on site to get interviewed, they actually get feedback on their performance in the interview. They get coached. So imagine that you were actually able to come into a job interview and get coached on whether or not you're able to pass the interview. I think that these practices that are currently focused on autistic individuals can also be applied to regular individuals, to what we call neurotypical individuals, because we could all benefit by hearing about our process and how we're really able to influence in some way the relationship that is happening in this interviewing process. We're used to the one-way communication, but inclusion is about two-way communication. It's about sharing power and connection. And the last thing I want to say is, when organizations focus on inclusion, they focus on ability and no disability. They're really trying to listen and understand what's the difference and the impact that these individuals can create in the organization with their knowledge and their abilities, and not just focus on their limitations. And so with that, one of the things the organizations do is, in order to attract these individuals, they're hiring interpreters, deaf interpreters. They're also running their job descriptions to change the language to ensure it's gender neutral. And what these organizations are seeing in return is that the population of disabled individuals actually have high accuracy in their tasks, have higher productivity rates than their general population in their workforce. So I highly recommend that you think about, when you think about inclusive innovation, that you think about changing your hiring practices to ensure that all voices are heard within your organization. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You hear me? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, thank you very much, Venus. Much appreciate that. I think we were able to follow this along all right. So I see a lot of heads nodding here for your information that you can't see, of course. But thank you very much. And Venus is going to kind of hang around for the conversation after this panel. With that, I'd like to hand it over to Alan McCafferty. I believe you don't have slides, right?